past 50 years, composer John Williams has arguably been the defining sound of cinema. Although he began composing music for TV and film in the 1950s, it wouldn't be until the 1970s that he broke big, thanks to that iconic soundtrack to Steven Spielberg's Jaws. From there, he would go on to provide the music for a slew of Hollywood's biggest blockbusters and most poignant films, as well as recognizable anthems for pop culture mainstays, like the Olympic Games and NBC Nightly News. John Williams is an American icon and a definitive creator in film and music. So join the great pop culture debate as we attempt to name the best John Williams film score. I hear the unmistakable low tones from the Jaws theme every time I open the freezer for a pint of ice cream. I'm your host, Eric Resniak. Please welcome my panelists for this episode. Our first panelist will cry about these scores like everyone with a heart cries at the end of E.T. It's Amma Marfo.
I'll do my best to mute when the time comes, but don't worry, I'll be right here.
Well done. May I offer you some Reese's Pieces in this trying time? Next, he's Ride or Die Yub Nub. It's Derek Makita.
I'm also partial to Cy Snoodle's 70s funk number. I guess you could say I'm just a Return of the Jedi originalist.
Well, you know I'm always down to party with a bunch of furry dudes. And finally, she once blew the theme to Jurassic Park on an alto sax. She's Kate Rakulia.
Hold on to your butts, y'all.
Particularly if you're using a porta potty around a rampaging Tyrannosaurus. And up in the producer booth, we have Curtis Creekmore, who will be doing cello shots. Expect lots of bad orchestral puns tonight. Get your groaning out of the way now. If you're curious about how we ended up with this score 16, become a Patreon supporter of our little show. Or listen to the 3-minute preview available wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, you can head to this episode on greatpopculturedebate.com to find the listener bracket, as well as the 16 nominated soundtracks, so you can play along with us at home. While you're there, check out some of the other related episodes, including Best Movie Musical, Best Oscar Winner for Best Film, and Best Star Wars Character, all available at greatpopculturedebate.com. With that out of the way, strike up the orchestra and let's get into these debates. For our overture, we had 2 unanimous decisions by the panel, as 1-seed Jaws tore into 4-seed Saving Private Ryan, and 2-seed E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial proved the better alien against 3-seed Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But I know Derek wanted to speak on Close Encounters before we lose contact, and Amma wanted to speak on Saving Private Ryan. Derek, why don't you go first?
Yeah, here's the thing. The music from Close Encounters is every bit as iconic as E.T. And if you take nostalgia out of the equation, maybe even more so. I realize it's one of those sci-fi films that has largely been forgotten by more recent generations. But for listeners who may not be familiar, it's the music itself that serves as the key plot point to drive the story forward. So the simple 5-note motif is how the film's aliens attempt communication with humanity. And once we figured that out, it enables us to bridge the gap and connect. For all of these film scores, it can be said that without John Williams' contributions, they would feel diminished. With Close Encounters, if you were to pull John Williams out of the film would literally fall apart.
Yes.
I don't know how many other films on this list can claim that.
It's a great point. It's still going out against E.T., and I have to say I do think that is the correct answer from a meta perspective, but such a good point that the music is literally integral to that movie. But Amma, you wanted to speak on Saving Private Ryan.
I did. So Saving Private Ryan is the type of movie that is so bombastic in so many different ways that it's really difficult to make a John Williams score almost secondary to the film that it's scoring. But when you think about the power of the cast and the way that this was filmed and just kind of the types of things that we remember about it, the music is less notable compared to other elements of the movie. It's interesting to me that it kind of also feels aligned with what happened to Saving Private Ryan in that particular Oscar race, because people would see it and they're like, well, how could this not have won Best Picture? And then someone tells you what did, and you have to go, Shakespeare in Love? A movie that I really enjoy, but was it the best movie of that year from an Oscar? Like, I went to the Dolby Theater where they have like the ones for every year listed. I looked at it, I was like, man, we really let that happen. But yeah, so there's, I think in a lot of ways, Saving Private Ryan does get its due, but there are a handful of ways in which it doesn't, and the music is one of those. And when it's up against Jaws, right, how are you going to beat it? So I think in many other pair-ups, this could have advanced, but when you're going up against Jaws, man, you can't do it.
There's always a bigger fish, but in this case, maybe there's not. So yes, we will be moving Jaws into round 2. Next, the majority of the panel is on the hunt for adventure in the form of 1-seed Raiders of the Lost Ark, but Derek says Never Say Neverland to surprise return of her 4-seed Hook. Derek, you've got to fly, got to fight, got to crow as you defend Hook. Bangarang!
So first, let me share my rubric for this debate. I'm coming into this acknowledging that because his work has been nominated for literally dozens of Academy Awards, I don't believe that the handful that actually won necessarily represent his greatest achievements. I think it's a disservice to the arguments we will make from here on out to just favor his wins. So just like the films he scored, our picks will undoubtedly be personal because, frankly, John Williams doesn't do duds. He does masterpieces. That said, I know that Hook is a heavy lift here, but hear me out. I think the score to Hook brings something really wonderful and fantastical that also feels fresh and classic. Like so many Williams scores, I can't hear the music from Hook without getting emotional, especially for A Childhood Lost and the Robin Williams of it all.
Yes.
First of all, Hook was originally pitched as a musical.
Interesting.
Yes, hence why there's still some songs that are sung in the film, including When You're Alone, which itself was nominated for an Oscar. Other abandoned lyrical themes that were woven kind of back into the orchestral score, which kind of makes for a richer tapestry in Hook.
It's really interesting.
It is. And secondly, Hook, while not a critical success, the music so elegantly captures the magic and the nostalgia and the adventure of the film that it continues to kind of drive it home as a cult classic. My vote here is less a vote against Raiders than it is looking ahead to The Last Crusade. To me, The Last Crusade is the pinnacle of the franchise, both cinematically and in carrying forward, enhancing, and surpassing the groundwork that is laid by the score for Raiders. That's why I'm inclined to reserve my Indiana Jones vote here for The Last Crusade.
Interesting. And none for Temple of Doom. Amma, has he swayed you, or are you sticking with Raiders?
No. And it's not to say that I don't agree with the argument. I put in the chat here, there is a Cried At It Live club of scores, which is to say, when I saw it performed live, I burst into tears. Hook was the first time that happened. They did this flying song with a montage of flying scenes from movies. Coughing, crying, just lost it. But there is something so special about what Raiders does for Indiana Jones that, like, I could not ignore that.
Yeah. Kate, did he sway you, or are you sticking with Raiders?
No, but
here?
I completely agree with all those counts. And actually, my hot take is that the score for Hook is Home Alone 1 better. In terms of the way that it uses sort of like scampery, capery kids having adventures, but also this really haunting, like beautiful lullaby kind of melody that is also part of it. I love the score of Hook. It's fantastic, but I am going to stay with Raiders.
I will as well, but great job, Derek. You did Peter Pan proud. Next, in a case of Star Wars on Star Wars violence, the panel has unanimously decided to push forward the score for 2-seed The Empire Strikes Back, which means that 3-seed Return of the Jedi will Ewok its way out of our bracket. The issue we have, for me, with the Star Wars ones is it's basically the law of diminishing returns on those. Yeah. There's not a lot of new themes that are entered there were a lot in Empire, which is a whole separate thing. But like once you get to Jedi, it's kind of just like, we got the hits. We're just going to play the hits, you know? Yeah. So I think this is the correct answer. And also, I mean, Empire Strikes Back is... Kate, you want to say something?
Justice for yub nub nub yub nub yub yub nub. Yes. That was me playing the empty helmets of fallen dead soldiers. Sorry. That's but then, I mean, it's also sort of like that. So that and the scene in Jabba's palace are like so perfectly 80s, late 70s, early 80s in the original. Yeah. And then when the special editions came out, it was sort of like, that was my first clue that, like, is George Lucas okay? I don't know if he is.
Yep.
Yes.
To quote the meme, the Demi Lovato, leave her alone, get a job. That's my feeling with George Lucas and the special editions.
That's the second time that would have been invoked today. I brought that up in a meeting at work. I don't remember why, but I felt it with all my heart. And yes, that meme is very important.
Yep, and I think John Williams would agree. So, all right, we will be moving Empire Strikes Back into round 2. Speaking of Star Wars, I am the sole defender for 4-seed Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, while the rest of the panel thinks that 1-seed Jurassic Park score is dynamite. I will hold a duel with fate to see if I can force pull some votes for The Phantom Menace. I'm going to go first. So, I'm not going to win this. Jurassic Park absolutely should move forward, but we need to speak on Episode 1's score, which is overall one of the better elements of that movie. We specifically need to discuss the centerpiece of the score and the soundtrack to the most gripping sequence in the entire film, Duel of the Fates, which was played during the climactic lightsaber duel between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn. That whole sequence is like honestly worth the price of admission alone, right? And this song, it's a capital E epic, right? It brings in full orchestra and a full chorus. And if you think they're just singing nonsense, they're actually words taken from a Welsh poem and then translated and sung in Sanskrit, which is genuinely really cool. Like, okay.
What is the poem? What are the words?
I don't know. I didn't go to school for math. Duel of the Fates.
I don't know what she's saying, but I am living.
I am living, girl. Duel of the Fates would be one of the most defining elements of the prequel trilogy, and while those films are deeply polarizing, the song was universally praised. It was so popular, in fact, that the makeshift music video for it actually charted on MTV's Total Request Live. If that doesn't take you back to 1999.
Simpler times.
Simpler times. So with that being said, Derek, have I swayed you? Are you sticking with Jurassic Park?
No, sir. I'm still with Jurassic Park.
Kate, did I sway you or are you sticking with Jurassic Park?
I am definitely with Jurassic Park, but it is, I mean, I feel like Duel of the Fates was sort of like George Lucas went to John Williams and he was like, buddy, it's time. And John Williams was just like, I've been holding on to this for decades. He brought his A triple plus game and then he saw the movie and he's like, oh, okay, I can dial it back.
Yeah, he's like, oh, is this what we're doing?
Okay.
I'm a little embarrassed. I'm overdressed. Yes. Marfo, did I sway you sticking with Jurassic Park?
I'm sticking with Jurassic Park. Duel of the Fates is incredible, and it's going to feed into some of the conversation I have about other Star Wars that will appear later. But you got to watch a lot of movie that is not super compelling to get to it. And frankly, it feels like a fitting treat for enduring the rest of it, which is not true of Jurassic Park.
True.
Absolutely correct. I agree with all of that. One last thing I will say, we're going to talk about some Star Wars stuff later, but I was also listening to the sequel trilogy, and actually those soundtracks are pretty goddamn good. They are actually very strong, and the fact that they're not on here is because everybody hates the movies. It's not your fault, John Williams. All is forgiven. Anyway, the panel is evenly split over 2 Williams scores for films starring combative children, 2-seat Home Alone and 3-seat Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. See if you can get us feeling that gingerbread feeling for Home Alone. I will explain that even with the series' baggage, the score for the Sorcerer's Stone remains musical alchemy. Please go first.
So I think that the score here is really essential to refining the tone of the movie. So Home Alone is the movie that it is. Absent this score, or with a different score in its place, it's a different movie. And I don't think that that's true of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. That is true of other movies on the list, and I will use that argument more often. But there's just something really kind of grounding and settling about it in a movie where increasingly chaotic things are happening that can kind of take you out of it. But the fact that it comes from a very sweet place of a kid who misses his mom, of a kid who wants to keep his family safe, that's a hard thing to kind of square with how it actually plays out. And I think the score does a lot of work in getting you there. I think about how easily that trailer can be cut for different genres. I think about the Good Place joke where Tahani talks about Jason showing her a horror film and describes it, and it turns out being Home Alone. The score is essential to making Home Alone what it is. And I think Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, again, baggage notwithstanding, is still what it is absent the score. That's not true of this one.
That's a really good point. It still feels like a Christmas movie, even though it's a torture porn film. But it's great. It's very successful, right? And I want to let it be known, Home Alone is a great score. The whole movie is better than it had any right to be, and Williams' score is part of that. But his work on Harry Potter, and why I'm putting it forward, is, I think, his most important work in the entire 21st century. I'm certain that John Williams puts his best into everything that he does, but listening to this Potter score, you can tell he was really invested in this project. The sing-song core theme is absolutely terrific. He goes through virtually every section of the orchestra, each voice lending a different quality. The cascading running notes set mysterious, invigorating atmosphere. Hedwig's theme slaps. The ending of the Leaving Hogwarts theme is one of the most triumphant, emotional lines Williams ever has written. The project has a musical language that is totally separate from anything else he did with Spielberg, anything else he did with Lucas. And I love that because a lot of his work can be very referential, right? This does not sound like those other movies. It is distinct, and it's still unmistakably Williams. Behind all of that, the score is the most successful part of this particular movie in the Harry Potter franchise. It retains and it even enhances the magic that made readers fall in love with this property far better than the workmanlike direction ever did. Kate, is it going to be Harry Potter or Home Alone?
Gosh, I forget which one I chose, and I completely agree with you, Amma, that the sort of like, the reason Home Alone works, which it shouldn't, is John Williams. A lot is laid at his feet. And we'll return to this argument when we talk about some other stuff later. But I really I think you're right, Eric, because he went hard. He did not phone this in.
No.
He went hard. It is the best thing, especially, I mean, I know we're talking about the first one, but there's no other Harry Potter on here, right? Okay.
No, this is the only one.
The Something Wicked This Way Comes one that's in the third movie is so incredible.
Yeah, so good.
But I shouldn't include that in my rubric. You know what it is? It sounds like him trying to do not his version of, but has more in the spirit of Danny Elfman, which I think is really interesting. I'm going to give it to Harry Potter. There.
Derek, is it going to be Harry Potter or Home Alone?
Yeah, me too. I think I'm with Harry Potter on this one. And I think the fact that there aren't any other Harry Potter films on this bracket, he means he got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they just took little bits, kind of like what they did with Star Wars and Indiana Jones. But all right, Sariyama, we will be moving Harry Potter into round 2. Next, it's another split decision with half the panel choosing to be transported to a galaxy far, far away with the score for 1-seed Star Wars, A New Hope, while the other half wants to punch Nazis with 4-seed Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Amma, tell us why Star Wars is the score we're looking for. Kate, only the penitent woman will pass. Get in your cups in defense of Last Crusade. Kate, please go first.
So, we didn't really talk about the Raiders score, so I'm going to back into it a little bit. You have those two great indie themes that, like, originally Williams, like, presented parts of two themes to show Spielberg, and Spielberg was like, I like them both. And that's the traditional kind of like, dun, 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 like, that you know of, and there's a slightly, like, a B theme that's a little more sedate. So you have all of that great, rousing indie, you know, kind of nostalgic adventure music. But in Last Crusade, you have this gorgeous Grail leitmotif. That's a word I read and don't speak, so I don't know how to say it. Absolutely gorgeous. You have the incredible chase music in Venice with the sort of like the mandolin kind of sound. You have all the music from the Canyon of the Crescent Moon, the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword. There's this sort of emotional resonance to the music that isn't in Raiders, that is of a piece with the emotional resonance of Last Crusade, which, like, I love Indiana Jones, even the crap movies. Like, Temple of Doom is very close to my heart. It is a racist piece of garbage, but, like, I love it. But Last Crusade is the best movie as a whole, and his soundtrack is just, like, completely a part of that. On an interesting note, it's not on the soundtrack, but Williams did score the Königgrätzer Marsch, which is what is played when Indy goes to Berlin to the book burning, which I didn't realize is a real Nazi march until I saw Triumph of the Will in college. And like that, obviously it's not on the soundtrack. He did score it for the film, but that kind of like, it is really kind of about something, Indy. It's still an adventure movie. It's still a romp, but like there is real evil in it, and it is about coming together to be in opposition to that. So yeah, Last Crusade all the way.
Is your argument that Star Wars is not about that?
No, it's not. It's not. Although I think some people forget that when they're like, pick a side. And I'm like, one of those sides is fascism. Like...
Right. Yeah, seriously. No, that's like real 2025 talk.
Yep.
Talk to us about Star Wars A New Hope.
So on some level, there is no losing here because Harrison Ford is on both sides.
It's true.
No one loses here. I want to say that up top. My choice here, in some cases, is informed by additional context over and above the film itself. So in addition to talking about scores, really loving scores, I listen to a lot of podcasts about movies and about scores. And there's one called Blockbuster. The first season is about Steven Spielberg making Jaws around the same time that George Lucas was working on Star Wars. And one thing that they bring up is just as they were in the editing process, no matter how they edited it, no matter how they sequenced it, Star Wars just plotted. It wasn't working. It felt heavy. It felt just like overwrought, and they were really concerned, like, we put all of this into it and it wasn't going to work. And then John Williams got on the phone with Lucas and was like, listen to this thing that I'm working on. And it blew the whole thing open. Star Wars doesn't work without its music. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. And the other piece that I want to bring in, and I know it's kind of like each movie within the context of the movie itself, bearing in mind that Star Wars has multiple chapters. Eric, at the opening, you said John Williams has been scoring music for in excess of 50 years. There's been a Star Wars score in all of those 50 years. 5 decades, and there's a Star Wars score in all of them. And going back to some of the other ones that we talked about, there are franchises that he started and didn't stay with. Star Wars he did. He made sure. When I saw him in 2014 before the final trilogy came out, he was like, I'm eating my Wheaties. I want to do this one. And he talked about being really excited for Rey's theme in particular. So the fact that this is something that not only saved this project, but the composer himself was so involved in that he was like, I'm not tapping out no matter how many of these that they make. That's incredibly special. So with all of that in mind, it has to be Star Wars.
That is such a great argument. Thank you so much, Amma. Derek, where are you on this one? Is it Star Wars or Indiana?
Amma, you almost had me swayed because it makes perfect sense what you just said. Mm-hmm. But for me, I go back to my argument when I was arguing for Hook. The Last Crusade is the best of the Indiana Jones scores, so that's why it still gets my vote here.
I don't understand how this is even a debate. I'm sorry. Like, that's crazy. If you're listening to this and be like, this is crazy. Star Wars, you guys, like literally the music, you sit in that theater and it's like getting punched in the face with a sonic explosion from second one. The music is an integral part of the movie-going experience for Star Wars. In a way, it's lovely in Indiana Jones. I love it. But like Star Wars, to Amma's point, makes that movie work. And it didn't make it work. It made it soar. Bad pun. But we're split. 2 for Star Wars, 2 for Indiana Jones. Star Wars is a 1 seed. So Star Wars is going to continue.
I don't hate it.
You did a great job.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. If Harrison Ford, everyone wins.
Everybody wins.
Except for Palpatine. Finally, in round 1, the panel voted unanimously for 2-seed Superman score to fly up, and away into round 2, meaning that 3-seed Schindler's List. I am not going to make any terrible puns about Schindler's List. I'm sorry. I can't do that. It has sadly left our bracket, but Amma, you wanted to speak on Schindler's List.
Yeah. I think Schindler's List, the score kind of falls in some ways the same category with Saving Private Ryan in that it was so starkly visibly stunning and so beautifully acted and beautifully written that when you think about the movie, the score is maybe not secondary or like maybe even like tertiary or quaternary. Like it comes down the list. It's not to say that it isn't wonderful. It is incredible. But going up against Superman, again, for something that it is so embedded in that kind of lore that every subsequent Superman film, irrespective of its involvement with that original one, has had to interpolate it in some way. That's a really beautiful legacy to have.
The new Superman had Superman, right?
Yeah. So everybody since has like had to kind of interpolate it, right? And thankfully we haven't needed more than one Schindler's List, touch wood, because we know where we are in time. But it's not as essential to that film as it is to Superman. It's foundational almost. So I understand why it had to go, but it is gorgeous. If you haven't listened to it in a while, please go do. It's really, really beautiful.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So thank you very much. We will be moving Superman into round 2, and that's the end of round 1. We're going to take a quick break to polish our brass, if you know what I mean. We'll be right back.
Is Captain Picard objectively the best Star Trek captain? Did The Sopranos really need that ending? These are the questions that keep us up at night. Welcome to the Great Pop Culture Debate, where passion meets pedantry. We dissect, we digress, and occasionally we devolve into glorious geeky chaos. But we can't do it without you. Support the Great Pop Culture Debate on Patreon and unlock a treasure trove of bonus content, early access to episodes, exclusive bonus debates, and the chance to finally weigh in on that great die-hard Christmas movie debate. Is it? Is it? Join the conversation. Support the Great Pop Culture Debate on Patreon, because some debates, well, they just need to happen.
And we are back for round 2 of our Best John Williams Film Score debate. Before we get into the Elite 8, I'd like my panelists to share their social media and what else they're working on. Amma Marfo, where can people find you and what do you got going on?
I am on Instagram and YouTube at Amma Marfo. Right now, I am telling jokes wherever people will have me. So if you like my comedy on YouTube and want to see me show up where you live, let your clubs know. Would love to come.
Derek Makita, where can people find you? What else are you working on?
On my social media that you can actually access, you can find me on Blue Sky and Threads. I'm working on myself, and gosh darn it, that's enough.
Kate Rakulia, where can people find you? What you working on?
Nominally, I am on Instagram as Gomez Rack, the name of my beloved teenage cat. And yeah, I'm writing a book. I'm taking a little break right now, but there's the book. I'm working on it. I'm writing again. What? It's good.
We are thrilled to hear it, and we will be the first in line to get it signed. The best place to follow us is on Blue Sky at gpcd.bsky.social or at Great Pop Culture Debate on Instagram or TikTok. You should also make sure to subscribe to our page on YouTube, where we're posting original video content. We also are posting the video versions of these episodes as of season 12. So if you want to see us as well as hear us, come on over and knock on my door and subscribe to our YouTube channel. What you really need to do is to sign up for our weekly newsletter, new every Tuesday at noon. It tells you about everything coming out in pop culture that week. Sign up by finding the link on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or via our link tree on any of our social media accounts. Now, let's get into round 2, which will just be a rehashing of the themes from Act 1, but louder. First up, the bulk of the panel is filling up on Reese's Pieces and phoning home in support of the score for 2-seed E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, while I am swimming solo in my support for the music in 1-seed Jaws. Amma, tell us why you still think the music in E.T. is out of this world. I'll see if I can hunt down a vote or two for Jaws. I'll go first. Listening to these two scores, I find myself even more convinced that Jaws is the better option here. E.T. has higher highs. I will give you that. When that score soars, it is truly stellar, pardon the pun, but as a whole, I do not think it is nearly as cohesive as the work Williams does on Jaws. Jaws feels singular. It feels complete. Everything in that score feels like it belongs to the story, even the hilariously twee tourism montage. The scope may be more narrow than E.T., but Jaws evokes terror. It evokes being hunted. It even evokes being underwater. It's so effective in what it's trying to do. And it starts right from the very beginning. Those low, rumbling bass notes, the soft twinkling of the harp, and the soft banging drums like something bumping around underwater, the frenetic chasing sequences with the strings of the percussion. This score transports you in a way that very few do. E.T. sounds like several different films to me. Parts of it sound super referential to Star Wars. Very little of it feels like a family film as well. So that being said, Amma, talk to me.
So I will grant you that the score to Jaws is really effective. I think in addition to being ornamental to kind of augment really good visuals and a script that I revisit every year and I'm somehow continue to be surprised at how funny it is. Like Jaws is a funny movie.
It's a funny movie.
Yeah. And it's kind of ornamental to those pieces, but it's also instrumental to those pieces down to when an attack is going to happen and what the outcome of it is going to be. And if you know the score well enough, you can listen and know. So it does a lot of things that are tremendously effective. But again, I do think that there is something really emotionally affecting, and it's not to say that there isn't emotion evoked in Jaws. Of course, it is fear that has made sharks endangered. It's really powerful on that front. But there's a different type of emotion that E.T. is tapping into with that score that makes it such an indelible experience. Like, I remember, my mom is not a movie person. She likes maybe 5 movies in the entire world. But E.T. was the first movie that she saw when she came to North America. And she talks about remembering that all the time. Like, it's something that is stuck with a woman whose age I could not disclose on this podcast, even though she doesn't know how to listen to it. But the fact that she... But, like, the fact that she remembers how deeply that movie affected her and does at times refer to the music, like, that's a really powerful thing that Jaws doesn't do as much of. I think E.T. does more of it, and it does it in a more bombastic way.
Great argument. Derek, is it going to be E.T. or Jaws for you?
It is still E.T. for me. I hear everything you're saying. This is a personal pick for me. It has to be E.T.
Kate, E.T. or Jaws?
My rubric for this bracket is entirely personal, and it is E.T.
Okay, so that is 3 for E.T. It will move forward. I think Jaws had a good run, but I can't argue that. I honestly can't.
Swim.
A good swim, if you will. A hearty meal. I'm on the outs again, as I prefer the music from 1-seed Harrison Ford vehicle Raiders of the Lost Ark, while the rest of the panel prefers the music from 2-seed Harrison Ford vehicle The Empire Strikes Back. Kate, tell us why you think Empire sounds like Hoth stuff. I will try to whip you all into shape for Indy and Raiders. Kate, please go first.
Hoth stuff. So, you know, we already talked a little bit about, Amma talked about Star Wars beautifully, and like Empire is all of that. Plus, and this is honestly, like, I went back and I was like, is that for real? We don't get the Imperial March until this movie. I made this reference to something at work this week and people looked at me like I was insane, but it's like that moment in Sweeney Todd when he gets his knives back and he's like, my arm is complete. Like, and they were like, you're talking about a project management? And I was like, my arm is complete. But no, that is Empire. Star Wars is complete. We have the hero's theme, we have Leia's theme, and now we have the Imperial March. We have real darkness. We have a real militaristic entity that's sonic, that sort of matches the threat that our heroes are up against, matches the darkness of the second movie, which is so good. It's an incredible soundtrack. It has that incredible version of Leia's theme at the very end with this sort of like hanging ending, which has like the ballsiest ending of any Star Wars movie.
Totally.
Point blank. Also, it was recorded during my literal birthday. So, like the day that I arrived on planet Earth, John Williams was somewhere, probably in England, recording this. So I have to go with Empire.
These are compelling arguments. So the thing I realized listening to Raiders is that while most of Williams's best scores are almost all characters in the films themselves, Raiders is for the most part very much about setting a tone and a mood, and that makes sense when you consider that the series was heavily inspired by the adventure serials of the early 20th century. And the music also feels very much in that vein, but it doesn't make for a great score on its own, in my opinion. With, of course, one notable exception, the iconic Indiana Jones theme. It's sensational, it's memorable, it is perfect for this film. Is it strong enough to push against Empire here? I actually changed my vote while doing my research for this. But I want to hear, Derek, are you sticking with Empire or are you go to Raiders?
So I would stick with Empire here, but y'all fucked up my brackets. So because I don't have Last Crusade here anymore, I need an indie to go through. And maybe that's not a good enough reason to sway you back to me, Eric. But I think we already have Star Wars moving forward here. So I need indie here, and Raiders is the representation I got.
So you're playing the long con. Amma, is it going to be Raiders or Empire for you?
So, love both of these. I have Star Wars going all the way, and I'm prepared to put all of my Star Wars-based enthusiasm into that one, even though Kate's point about the Imperial March is impeccable and important. What happens if I switch my vote to Raiders?
If you switch your vote to Raiders, that's 2 for Raiders, and it's the 1 seed, and Empire is the 2 seed, so Raiders goes forward.
Do it.
Very Imperial.
Very Palpatine.
Extremely Palpatine.
So at the advice of council being Palpatine, I am going to switch my vote. Yes, I am going to switch my vote. I was
She's
Empire
gone to
and
the
I'm now
dark
Raiders.
I do think this is a funny thing. I'm just going to say this for the listeners. I think we're all agreeing that the actual better score here is Empire. But
100%.
From a representation perspective, we are moving forward Raiders, so we don't have 2 Star Wars in the Final Four, and Indiana makes the Final Four. Is that correct, Amma? Is that what we're saying?
I think we are like anti-pepperonian, or like inverse pepperonian.
I love it. Love to see it.
Love to see it. Okay, chaos. It's a ladder. And Raiders of the Lost Ark will continue into the Final Four. Next, the majority of the panel still believes the past is the future of this bracket by pushing forward 1 seed Jurassic Park, but Derek remains spellbound on 3 seed Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Amma, try to keep Rex and Effects in our bracket by pushing Jurassic. Derek, try to sort us into different houses as you defend Potter. I'm going to have Derek go first here.
So I like this pairing because I think that the main themes for these films introduced every bit as iconic as the films they were made for, right? And I think it can be said that the music from these films laid the groundwork for the many sequels and park attractions that would follow. And it is with that in mind that I tip my hat to the Sorcerer's Stone. It established a unique musical identity that is synonymous with the film franchise itself, which includes the latest Fantastic Beasts films. Was it nominated for an Academy Award? Of course. But more than that, it is indelible in the minds of children and adults for the last 3 decades in a way that truly holds its own against some of the other titans in these brackets. Hedwig's theme, Christmas Time, Voldemort, Quidditch, Diagon Alley, they all have their own recognizable motifs. I think the score to Jurassic Park is fantastic. I just think that he comes closer to opus territory with his work in Sorcerer's Stone.
Great argument. Really good. Amma, talk to us about Jurassic Park.
So, to Derek's point, we have 2 films that started franchises, and they started franchises that other composers had to pick up. And what I find with Jurassic Park is they, thematically, storyline-wise, have gotten pretty far afield from what made that first movie effective.
Word.
But what I find is that when they need to go back to what made it effective, the John Williams music comes back. And I felt that way about Rebirth, which largely was like a lot of stuff. And I'm like, what are we doing here? But then you get to that.
What was that film?
Yeah, I'm like, what did I... And I saw an advanced screening, so I was like, I got what I paid for, I guess. But the scene where Jonathan Bailey, who has been studying dinosaurs from afar for ages and had never gotten to see one, and like they come back to that moment of awe, and that is an interpolation of John Williams. Now, by comparison, it is not to say that the Harry Potter movies don't do that, but I would argue that subsequent composers also had an impact on the musical history of those stories. So, like, there are other songs that are really effective that aren't John Williams ones in later Harry Potter films. That's not true of the Jurassic Park ones. What he brought to those movies and the tone that he said, like, this is the most impressive thing about this, because it's not the fact that there are dinosaurs, it's not the fact that it's the action, there are emotional pieces that the music brings in. And only John Williams, it looks like, can do that for that particular franchise. So there's a singular element to it that makes me want to go for Jurassic Park here.
I'm loving these arguments. These are such thoughtful, interesting arguments. Good. Kate, is it going to be Jurassic Park or Harry Potter for you?
It's going to be the second CD I ever owned, Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I give it to Jurassic Park as well. I agree with everything you said. I really do, Derek, think from a 21st century perspective, Harry Potter is his magnum opus. We don't talk about that property a lot on this podcast for various very good reasons. The Williams part of it supersedes all that, right? He has nothing to do with it, and it is such a great score. If you have not listened to it because of the mishigas with that whole thing, I encourage you to do so. You also mentioned the Oscar nominations, and we didn't talk about this. He's the second most nominated individual from the Oscars in history, only behind Walt Disney.
I was going to say, who's first?
It's Walt Disney, and he actually hasn't won that many. I think he's only won like 7, but it's like dozens that he's been nominated for.
Yeah.
It's a great work, but Jurassic Park, I agree with Amma's point, like, it is the DNA, and that you can take that as a bad pun as well, of that film series. Finally, in round 2, the score to 2-seed Superman may have found its kryptonite in the form of 1-seed Star Wars, A New Hope. I will see if I can turn back time to save Superman from a fatal exposure. I will not, because in doing my research for this, I realized that Superman is actually not a Final Four level score, in my opinion. There are 2 wonderful themes in it. One is the title track that everybody knows. It's incredible. It captured the majesty of superheroes in a way that had never been done before on screen, and all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe of it all since can be laid partially sonically at John Williams' feet decades later. The Lois love theme is beautiful, and then after that I was just like, oh, it just goes on like this. But you know what? I love those 2 pieces, but it's Star Wars for me. Kate, is it Star Wars or Superman for you?
It's Star Wars. It's Star Wars. Again, I mean, that Superman theme is, as if we were to sort of look at all of John Williams' themes, theme to theme, would go toe-to-toe with an indie, would go toe-to-toe with a Star Wars, but as a soundtrack, it doesn't hold up.
Amma, what about you?
Star Wars is going all the way, baby!
Derek?
I am very proud of us for not bringing up the words juggernaut or iconic so far on this podcast. But Superman is super iconic, but Star Wars is more iconic.
It's more iconic, so Star Wars will make it to the Final Four. And with that, we have our Final Four. We're going to take a quick break before we crescendo to our big finale. We'll be right back.
Welcome, seekers of knowledge, to the hallowed halls of the great pop culture debate archives. Are you yearning for deeper understanding of the cinematic universe? Perhaps a spirited discussion on the merits of 80s cartoons? Or maybe you simply wish to settle once and for all the age-old question, is cereal soup? Our extensive collection of episodes awaits you, each one a treasure trove of passionate arguments, insightful analysis, and the occasional, shall we say, spirited disagreement. From the epic battles of fandom to the quiet contemplation of artistic merit, you'll find it all within our digital stacks. So come explore our full library of episodes at greatpopculturedebate.com. Your quest for pop culture enlightenment begins here.
And we are back with the final 4 of our Best John Williams Film Score debate. At this point in the show, I like to take a step back and see if it shook out the way I expected it to. I also like to add that no matter which option wins, we are celebrating all of these entries, and I hope nobody gets salty about what comes next. So our final 4 is E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, a 2-seed, versus Raiders of the Lost Ark, a 1-seed. Jurassic Park, a 1-seed, versus Star Wars, A New Hope, a 1-seed. Is it how I thought I would shake out? This is hard because I think there were probably 8 that could have ended up here and have been justifiable. During the break, we were talking about how some people might be listening being like, what was that diabolical twist that you all did in Elite 8 to get Raiders in there, even though Empire is the better one? I do think there is something, you know what? I'm not going to say it. Amma, you had some thoughts about why it's okay that we have these 4 different genres.
Well, again, to the point that Harrison Ford wins either way, I think that being able to honor the fact that the work across the 4 is so different Like, the closest substitution we would have had here for Raiders would be Empire Strikes Back, and I do think that the introduction of the Imperial March is grounds enough to include it. But now we get to celebrate 4 fairly distinct versions of Williams's work in a way that Star Wars doesn't necessarily do. I think the only one that I'm surprised, if that even is the word that I want to use, isn't represented is Jaws. I think that there is a world where Jaws could have made it, but the way that the seeds fell out, it wasn't going to happen. Agree
completely with that, yeah. Kate, anything to add on that or no?
No, I agree. Yes, same.
So let's get into it. It's E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial versus Raiders of the Lost Ark. I would like to start with Amma. Where are you going on this one?
E.T.
Can you tell me why?
No. It's indescribable. It's indescribable. I think that there is just a feeling that you get when you watch those movies and find what the music does that in some ways defies explanation. It defies words. And I am a word person by trade. I should be able to do this. I don't have an elegant way to describe it. It just is.
Interesting. Derek, is it E.T. or Raiders for you?
I will say exactly why you can't pick, because it's a personal decision. And we said early in this episode that we are making very personal decisions here, getting here toward the end. For me, I think E.T. is awesome. I don't think E.T. should move ahead against Raiders of the Lost Ark. So Raiders of the Lost Ark is what it is for me.
Kate, is it E.T. or Raiders for you?
I am E.T., and I'll give you a little bit more argument. So he wrote the score right after Raiders. Fun fact, it actually does include a little snippet of Yoda's theme, because there's that little jokey moment where they see the Yoda costume, which, like, if you think about it too much, it'll break your brain a little bit. One of the anecdotes that I came across when I was researching this episode was that Williams had problems timing the music with the recording of the final chase scene, which resulted in Spielberg shutting off the projector and just telling Williams to write the music the way he wanted it, and Spielberg would cut the film to fit the music, which I think is why it's so powerful. Should E.T. work? No. We've seen enough kids and alien movies since this to know that it doesn't work. And I honestly think it does work, and Amma's talked about this brilliantly in the rest of this podcast. It works because of this music. There is an emotional authenticity to this score that is absolutely outrageous. It's the sound of kids on bikes flying. It is the sound of Drew Barrymore as a child crying as she hands a puppet a plant. It is the feeling of I'll be right here, right? Like, it's so we've talked about E.T. a little bit on this podcast, and it's like not at all a kid's movie. It is a movie for adults who remember being children.
Yes.
And this, this is sort of like the Hook theme, the Home Alone theme, his absolute zenith of his expression of that sort of idea of incredible emotional authenticity and nostalgia and loss. There's a real feeling of this kind of unbearable, you can't talk about it feeling of, I am so sad and so happy at the same time, because I have grown up enough to know what it means to lose something is to never lose something. It's just, E.T. is so great. The last time I watched it, I was home with my parents and we're watching it, because it's just on. And I just at some point realized all three of us were just weeping quietly. It's so good. And the music is you can't talk about it. You can just feel it. So E.T. all the way. I had E.T. going all the way.
That was incredibly poetic, and there's no way I can follow that. But I will say, Kate, you address my chief complaint with the E.T. soundtrack, which is, well, actually, there's two. Number one, it is reminiscent of some of his other pieces.
Yes.
There are themes that are very reminiscent of Star Wars in it. And number two, it does not sound like a kid's movie at all, but you're exactly right. It's not a kid's movie. It is a movie made for adults who remember being kids, and it is about that loss of innocence. And that's why when I saw it in the theater as a child, it terrified me. But as an adult, I appreciated it. With that being said, also Raiders to me, great couple of themes, but I mean, also Marion's theme is wonderful.
Yes.
But I do think it is, at the end of the day, a backing track for that movie, whereas E.T. score is integral to it, and that's why I'm going to give it to E.T., so it'll move to the final two. Jurassic Park versus Star Wars, I would like to start with Kate. Which one is it going to be?
Oh my God. Personal decision, I'm going to give it to Jurassic Park. Again, second CD I ever owned, played it in band. I also think this one is a really great, Williams has many modes, but if I were to group them into two large categories, it would be awe and it would be terror. And Jurassic Park has both brilliantly. because you have that, like, it's a dinosaur, like, which has been parodied and yet still feels resonant when you watch the movie or when you hear it again in all of the various sequels. But it's also just like the kind of jungly, like, something's happening, something's shrieking, something's coming for me in the undergrowth, and I can't, like, kind of jazzy other sort of themes throughout as they're running through the park, and the T-Rex gets to be the hero. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Jurassic Park.
I'll say this, listening to this soundtrack again while I was working, doing my research for this, I was like, oh, I'm being attacked by velociraptors right now. I wasn't watching the movie. I knew I was being attacked by velociraptors, right? Derek, is it going to be right? Jurassic Park or Star Wars for you?
So, for me in this matchup, I think that the score to Jurassic Park and the visuals of Jurassic Park are very evenly weighted. And in this matchup, I go back to something that was said earlier, which was Star Wars is a fucking mess without that score. It doesn't have the weight without that score. And to me, that impresses upon me that the score is just superior. So that's why it gets my vote here, Star Wars.
Amma, is it Star Wars Jurassic Park for you?
It is Star Wars for me. Again, just having that full knowledge that, Derek, something that you're feeling is an actual factual reality, that they were putting this movie together and they're like, it's not working. This score saved this film. It gave us 50 years of films. If you don't have the score that can make that work, we don't get any of that. However you might feel about the subsequent sequels, the legacy that was able to start here versus the legacy that we would attribute to the Jurassic Park movies, which does not hold up by any means for that. And again, this was the one that he stuck with for half a century and was like, whatever you're doing, I want in on it. And it started here. So that is
even with Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
A thought that I had while doing this, they're both great. I think they're very, very strong contenders. This could be a final two, and it would make complete and total sense to me. Yep. The closest antecedent to the score for Star Wars at the time was something like Lawrence of Arabia or Gone with the Wind. This epic, sweeping, prestige
orchestral.
Picture.
It's so Stravinsky. It's so modern. It's like, it's beautiful.
It's both beautiful and it's also a big swinging dick, right? Like, it's two things in one. But what I think is amazing is it was for a genre film. Like, genre films did not have scores like this. And I think Star Wars changed the game in a very real way, whereas Jurassic Park benefited from it already, right? Like, it is a popcorn film, but it still sounds grand. But that didn't happen before Star Wars. And I will keep coming back to this. Star Wars starts out with basically blasting you in the face with the makeup gun set to horror of the orchestral, you know what I mean? Like, it is telling you, watch out, here it comes, right? It's incredible. Usually I get a warning before that happens, but in Star Wars, they just put it in dry, and I love that. So I'm giving it to Star Wars, which gives us a final two of E.T. versus Star Wars. E.T. is a 2 seed, Star Wars is a 1 seed. In my opinion, this is emotion, his most successfully emotional, or at least his first successful emotion piece, versus just full-on slapping you in the face with power. I'd like to start in the middle of the pack with Kate. Where are you going here?
You know, I love E.T. and I did have E.T. going all the way, but all of your arguments about sort of how integral the Star Wars score is to the project of Star Wars and everything that came from that, and I'm going to switch it to Star Wars.
Derek, is it going to be Star Wars or E.T. for you?
Star Wars.
Amma, Star Wars or E.T. for you?
I don't want to be Dorothy Ann from the Magic School Bus. It's very at my old school about this, but anytime that I've gone to see some form of John Williams performed live, you get some medley of the songs that we have covered here. Occasionally, they will leave out Jurassic Park. Occasionally, they will leave out E.T. They never don't do Star Wars. You have to. It is essential to the experience. Usually they end with it because it's like the thing that people are like waiting for and expect. It is the headliner of his canon. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. Does anyone else put lyrics to the theme from Star Wars, or is it just
Star Wars.
Nothing but Star Wars. Look at these Star Wars. Look at them now. I don't know why I turned it into a lounge act, but that's what I do in my head. Yeah, I'm giving it to Star Wars. And you might say that's so obvious, but it's not, because any one of these four could have won for very good reasons, right? Yep. And Jaws could have won too. E.T. really is, I didn't get to talk about it, but like the emotional connection for that movie is, I think, unparalleled. Maybe Home Alone and maybe Harry Potter get close to that connection, or Schindler's List as well. Very emotionally evocative. But Star Wars, God damn it, it was so good, and good for you, John Williams, right? So there you have it. Our pick for the best John Williams film score is Star Wars: A New Hope. Do you agree? Do you think that our notes fell flat? Tell us how you really feel by leaving a comment on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or find us on Blue Sky or Instagram. While you're there, make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you can hear about what new debates are coming soon, vote in open polls, and even decide which topics we tackle next. I want to say thank you to my panel. It's always a pleasure to be in the pit with you, even a Sarlacc one. And thank you for listening. If you love what you heard, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where you get even more exclusive content and you get episodes a whole day early. We hope you have a good one. And remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion. Now, let's hit the coda and play out these closing credits.